Hello, good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, everyone. We are here for FPL Under the Radar Game Week 10 preview. I'm FPL Kante here with my buddy FPL Wrangler. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey,
Can you hear
buddy.
me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Yep.
Yep, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Last game week was a good one. Feels like some time ago for some reason, but yeah, it was a pre-game week. It was a good game week unless you captain Salah over Haaland or you did not captain Haaland necessarily, right? So, but
Yeah.
yeah, there were still some big swings, right? Big rank swings for a lot of people, either way, positive or negative.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it's kind of the same situation what we saw game week 9 last season as well. Havertz versus Salah. It's
hmm
just kind of swapped this time, right?
Manchester
Yeah,
United again.
same Manchester United. So yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone was expecting them to be that poor, right? Like especially that first half, Man City just destroyed them. Like the Man United didn't look like a football team necessarily, and Haaland is like crazy, right? Monster, total monster. I mean. Uh, I don't know, like if he carries on this at this rate, he'll finish. He's supposed to finish up with like 50 plus goals probably this season, which probably most
Yeah.
likely won't happen. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
at least at this point of time, it's just crazy what he's doing. How was your game?
It was pretty good. First day was like 20 or 30 some points, and then second and third day was points that are completely flooded. So
Yeah,
yeah, I was really happy. It was more than 100. So pretty good game week. Apart from like Haaland, I had Bowen as well as Madison as well.
hmm
So got braces. So those are really good. So yeah, I think your one was pretty good, I guess, right? It was very, very good, I guess.
yeah. It turned out okay. I mean, I was lucky that I mean you were unlucky in the sense that Mitro got yellow carded and then got subbed off for his injury. So basically got a 0 pointer. I could not get to him because I already had Jesus and didn't quite want to get rid of him yet, or didn't want to take a hit for that, etc. So that turned out well. Jesus scored, Kane scored. So eventually, and it turned out well. And the 8 million midfielders again kind of are starting to raise their hand again. Right. So that was the talking point, probably the only talking point in the beginning of the season, like who is or who are the best 8 million mids. I think we are kind of starting to see a pattern at least to some extent. The Fodens, the Madisons, and even Boyan kind of coming back to life after a long, long time, right? I don't think he had any returns at all before game week 9, right? So his first returns, two returns in the same game, and he could have gotten more, to be honest, right? He looked dangerous in that game. So yeah, that's interesting. So at least we are getting there. Like a couple weeks ago, we are talking about taking three forwards, three strikers. Now we are kind of back again, maybe loading up on the midfielders again, right? Especially with the injuries in the forward line, Mitrovic, Isak, etc. It's injured. So yeah, I mean things change quickly, right? So that's the fun thing
It's
about
it's all
FPL.
about fixtures, right? It's all about
Absolutely,
fixtures.
absolutely. All right, so let's dive in. We have a lot to talk about this time around. So we'll be talking a little bit about the fixtures as we always do, kind of just looking at the fixtures until the World Cup for the next 7 game weeks or so. And as we always do again, we'll look at the team and player data from game week 1 to 9, kind of see if we can isolate some of the form versus fixtures thing, right? Were the players in form and also has good fixtures upcoming. And then, of course, we'll talk about the game week 10 fixtures, the immediate fixtures. And captaincy is barely a topic, at least for this game week, to be honest, but we'll at least touch on that anyways. Kind of redundant, to be honest, but we'll anyways talk about it. So with that, let's get into the fixtures. We already kind of spoke about this last week as well. Nothing changed, of course. So game week 12 is still a blank for Man City and Arsenal. So that's the big kind of deal breaker in a way, because a lot of us had 5, 6 Man City and Arsenal players. People who did wildcard in game week 8 or game week 9 did get rid of most of their Arsenal players, I would say, barring Martinelli, right? But the Man City players, most players have at least two Man City players. A lot of people have three Man City players. So next few weeks, starting from game week 10, 11, and 12, so you basically have three free transfers. You basically have to utilize those three FTs to see what your team is going to be for game week 12, right? I mean, of course, you can bench a few of them, maybe like a Haaland or even a Martinelli if you think the people that you have some value invested in. But otherwise, you have to think about like, are the other players in your team playable? Like the Neko Williams or the Andreas Pereiras, are they playable in game week 12 or not? So that's the talking point. And elsewhere, I mean, of course, we spoke about the fixture congestion as well, right? So especially I was looking at 11, 12, and 13. The turnaround is so fast. The game week 12 is actually a mid game week. Um, because of that blank, it kind of at a high level looks like as almost like a milestone for us, like game week 12, pre game week 12 and post game week 12. But actually game week 12 is a mid game week, and before and after the fixtures are pretty fast, thick and fast. Man City are probably in a better position, as we said in the last game week as well, and they did win their third game in the UCL league. I mean the group round this week. So they are in a good position to go through to the next round. They even could afford to rest some of their main players, right? KDB and Foden, they were rested. So I would say Man City are in a better position from even from an FPL perspective. Most of their popular FPL assets still should be good. Their defenders are all back, barring Stones. I think Stones is still kind of injured. Walker is injured also, actually. But Akanji is doing good. Diaz is good. AK is back. Gomez also did pretty well. So I think their defense is in a good shape. Liverpool and Chelsea, as we said last time also, both of them are kind of in a difficult position in UCL. None of their positions are quite secure yet to go through to the second round. And their fixtures are very, very, very congested, right? All the way through game week 16. Especially if you look at game week 11 to 13 turnaround, Chelsea is basically they play three games in 6 days, essentially. So it's going to be very, very rough in that time frame. But anyway, so there is still a couple of weeks to get there, or basically at least a week to get there anyways. um but yeah, that's pretty much about it. Elsewhere, I mean, as we said last time also, you have to think about the balance of the team, right? You want to of course get the big hitters from the big teams, but at the same time, some of the other teams whose fixtures are kind of turning or will turn, and they don't have as much congestion, like the likes of Leicester City or Crystal Palace, etc., etc., right? Or even West Ham. Well, West Ham has Europe though, but well, yeah, it's kind of an issue for West Ham maybe to some extent. But yeah, the likes of Leicester, Crystal Palace, etc., etc., they look pretty good options. But anything to touch on, especially on the fixtures?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Like again, game week 12 is the highlighting point here, right? So whatever transfer you want to do, you have to make sure that you have good coverage for game week 12, right?
Hmm.
Especially it's a midweek game, so whatever player you have, they could be rotated as well, right? Since
Absolutely.
it's a midweek game. So and as you mentioned, right, that except Martinelli, like we, people are loaded with three city, right? So if you
Hmm.
have Martinelli now, you don't have four players in game week 12. So whatever transfer you do, you have to make sure you have good coverage of game week 12, right? So that's really very
Yep.
important, and every transfer actually is very important, right? Um,
Absolutely.
definitely you can chase upside because there are a lot of fixture to target, but again, you have to also think about with less hits. Less hits as possible,
Hmm.
and then after game week 12, then it's a different thing. Either you wildcard or not, then it's different story. But until game week 12, it's really every transfer is very valuable.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
and
I
it's
mean,
that.
as you
Yeah.
mentioned, like we cannot afford to get in players who are even a slight bit of rotation risk, right? At least until game week 12. I mean, there are short-term fixtures. You spoke about it last time. Like, for example, Villa plays Forest this week, or Wolves plays Forest next week, etc., etc. but you have to be wary of the fixtures around as well, because there are only few transfers to take care of all the other positions in your team. But yeah, so that's about it. Wanted to say anything else on this?
No, let's move on.
So, all right, so let's talk about the underlying stats for the teams first a little bit. So this is the XG data for all the teams from game week 1 to game week 9. And as we would expect, Man City is the best team in the league from a XG standpoint. They are posting 2 plus XG almost in every game. I think barring two games, essentially they have posted 2 plus XG in every single game. Arsenal also very very good in general. Their fixtures are also very good for the first few game weeks, so that kind of plays into that as well. So it's probably will be a little more challenging for them moving forward. Of course, this game they already did beat Tottenham last game, right? So the North London derby, that was a big win from a EPL perspective and even from an FPL perspective, I think, right? So you cannot just disregard the Arsenal players. You have to think of them as big game players in a way, right? The way we used to think of Man City or Liverpool players. Like if I had a Salah or whatever Man City guy last season, when we would expect to play them all 38 games essentially, right? We wouldn't think of that, okay, they're playing a hard game, etc., etc. So Arsenal maybe not at the same level, but they are kind of almost getting there. So like even for example, Liverpool is not necessarily a bad game for them, I think, given, and we'll look at the XG considered data soon too, and we'll see that Liverpool's defense is not necessarily looking in the best shape, right? Although Matip is back, Thiago is back, so they'll probably get in better shape, but still kind of shaky. Even in the last game week and in the I think they did well against Rangers in UCL, but Rangers is Rangers, a pretty weak
Also the
team
matchup, right? So like Martinelli has a good matchup.
against
That's
Trent.
the, yeah, against Trent, right? Because there's the vulnerability that Liverpool has, and every team is trying to exploit. So
Yeah.
yep. So it's very difficult to ignore Arsenal, to be honest, against Liverpool,
Hmm. Hmm.
especially
Yeah.
like their performance they had against Spurs in the last week, right? So it's so
Yeah.
difficult, and it's their home game, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, surprising on this chart is Newcastle. I didn't quite expect them to be third on this list, on the attacking list. We all have been targeting the defenders a whole lot, right? But their fixtures are still good, right? You brought in Isak in game week 8 wildcard because their fixtures were good, and they're still decent, right? They're probably not the best up to game week 16, but they're still pretty decent fixtures for the most part of it. So Newcastle is an interesting team, and I think Saint Maximin is back on the ground, and he'll probably start. So that adds to it as well. So I think they're a pretty good team to target. I said it in Twitter also throughout the last week. Wilson is probably the best Isak replacement, right? And we'll talk about the player stats a little more. So, but I think still there you can definitely target the Newcastle attackers. Still potential to do that. Elsewhere, Liverpool is good. Chelsea is struggling a little bit. They did well against AC Milan in the UCL game. I think after a long time, we scored like 3 goals in a game, and it overall we looked good. That was the good part. Overall, we looked good as a team, as a unit. So that was good to see. But I'm still a little iffy. I mean, I would not jump in and start buying all the Chelsea attackers, etc. James is still absolute hold or buy even to some extent, given their fixtures, etc. And we'll talk about some of the other options, maybe Starling and Aubameyang, etc., etc. But I hope and I think that Chelsea will improve. In a few weeks, we'll see Chelsea a lot better than what we're seeing on this chart. And on the bottom of the chart, at the end of the chart, we basically have West Ham and Leicester. We spoke about them. They did not have a good start to the season. The fixtures were tough, but the fixtures are turning good. Already we saw that last game week, right? And as we said, like fixtures play into form, right? So and that's true for the teams, true for the players. Bowen and Madison were nowhere to be seen, right? Any XG data, any underlying data, but they both did pretty well last game week, and they did look good as teams, and I expect them to kind of at least do good over the next few games, both West Ham and Leicester. So something to keep an eye on, right? Of course, you have to kind of think of the context what their fixtures were in the first few game weeks. But I expect them to get better also by the time we get to game week 16. And the bottom three, they are kind of suffering, right? Southampton, Wolves, and Bournemouth. Southampton, I think, actually lost to Everton last game week, right? In game week 9, they
Yeah,
did
2-1.
well.
Yeah.
They were leading 1-0, but they ended up losing 2-1. So that was a very poor game. They were actually very poor. Uh, so, and I was seeing rumors of Hasanudul getting sacked. It didn't happen, and probably, but if he loses again or a few games, that's probably going to happen. They're just not looking that great, to be honest. And Wolves, they Lage already got sacked, right? So they already potentially have a new coach. I didn't see the confirmation for sure, but it looks like Lopetegui is going to be the coach soon. So that will be interesting to see. But again, Wolves just doesn't look like scoring goals, right? I mean, Diego Costa did look good for the 30-35 minutes that he played in the last game. And I think they will improve also, but something to keep an eye on. And Bournemouth is very poor too, right? They just don't look like a Premier League level team, to be honest. At least even Forest creates chances, but Bournemouth just doesn't look like creating any chances at all. Very poor in attack. Anything else that you want to touch on from
Palace. So basically, Palace also in the bottom half, but
right?
their fixtures are turning, right? So something to look forward, and that's why
Absolutely.
we talked about this last game week as well. But I
Hmm.
think yeah, otherwise you covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Brighton, did you cover Brighton by the way?
No, we did not talk about Brighton. Yeah, we can talk about Brighton. I mean, their performances look pretty consistent, right? Pretty
Hmm.
consistent over the
Yeah.
first games. Of course, they have a new coach, and if anything, the new coach looks even more aggressive in comparison to Potter, right? So, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. Hello, Nehal. So that's something to keep eye on. Trossard look really good, right? I think moving forward, we have been talking about Trossard since game week 4, right? When he still probably didn't even have any returns, but we did talk about him and how the change in strategy, Estupinian coming into the team and Trossard moving more central would improve his potential, and it did, right? I think he has like 40 points in the since we spoke about him in game week 4. So yeah, so he's still a very viable option, right? Although they play Tottenham this game week, they have a very good fixture in game week 12, Forest, right? So I think Trossard is a good buy at a high level unless you have other pressing issues elsewhere in your team. I think
They also
Brighton,
have Brentford as well, I think in 11, and
Brentford,
playing against Spurs in 10 in home. So not
correct.
bad. So
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind
yeah,
Trossard at all. I think they are just going to be one of those teams that just play super aggressively, right? So I
especially
do
I
it.
think in 12, right? Again, Nottingham Forest. I mean, I think even you can captain Trossard if you think.
Yeah, I'll be very afraid to not go with uh, Brighton player in that game. I'm
Mhm.
almost. I'll talk about it a little later when I come to my team. But yeah, I would want a Brighton player definitely for game week 12 at least. All right, so there's the XG. Let's move on to the XG conceded or the defensive underlying data. Again, Man City by far the best defense. Ridiculous numbers, right? They just don't seem like conceding anything. Couple of bad-ish games, but even the last game, I think the Man United game was like the 1.7 XG conceded. They were already leading by like 5-0, 6-0, etc. So probably doesn't count as much. The game was already open. But other than that, they're just superb. Arsenal still look good against Tottenham. Also, I think barring that penalty, Tottenham didn't have any clear-cut chances, to be honest. So I think Arsenal defense still looks pretty solid. Uh, West Ham is the interesting team on this chart, right? And we spoke about West Ham last game too. And we did recommend getting Fabianski in, for example, as the goalkeeper option. He wasn't being talked about as much, at least in comparison to like the Popes or Guaitas, etc. Right? Fabianski looks like a very good option moving forward, given their fixtures and given their defensive stability. I think they just look like a good unit defensively. It's kind of a little different from how they were playing last season, right? They were more open, more attacking, more aggressive. We're seeing a lot of goals from West Ham, but not as much defensive solidity. but this season I think they look more solid as a defensive unit. So that's interesting. Um, West Ham's fixtures are also good. We'll look at that soon also. So they're a good team to target from a defensive standpoint. Chelsea's defense still good. I know there is a common notion that Chelsea defense is poor this season, but barring a few mistakes, a lot of the goals came from like individual mistakes, from Mendy or from one from I think Aspilicueta. Barring that, I think in general Chelsea defense is still good, and I do expect them to keep doing good. Fofana is injured, right? So that's one thing. If anyone already got in Fofana on their wild card in game week 8 or 9, unfortunate, very unfortunate. So far, what we know is it could be a pretty bad injury. We'll see, but we'll probably know more tomorrow. Uh, but if it is an ACL or MCL injury, it could be season over for him, right? So that's going to be interesting. But elsewhere, I think I still like Chelsea defense in general. Aston Villa also kind of caught my eye. I was looking at their game by game numbers, especially against the lower oppositions, stable oppositions. They have pretty good XG considered numbers actually in the order of 0.5 ish. So I don't mind if you have a Aston Villa defender. I know a lot of people probably got like Mings, etc. I was looking Twitter. Not too many people, to be honest. Both Dini and Cash were injured. But Aston Villa's fixtures are, as we already spoke about, at least up to game week 12, 13, not that bad. So not a bad short-term punt from a defensive standpoint. Newcastle is still good, right? As we uh, all have been targeting Newcastle defense for some time. Um, what else? Palace, as you said, from an attacking front, same thing for the defensive thing also, right? So they had bad fixtures to start with. So and if we follow their form last season, they look very very solid defensively. I'm still a little wary about how they're playing, and of course Gallagher not being there, there have been changes, so we cannot just directly extrapolate their performance from last season to this season, right? And they have not promised a whole lot from a defensive perspective. So I'll be a little wary about them. But given the fixtures, if you already got in like a Gahey or an Anderson or something like that, I think they're decent hold, decent pick. Um, but yeah, I'm not too confident about Palace defense, to be honest. I know a lot of people are bullish on them, but I'm not too confident. Uh, and then the punching bags at the bottom, right? Fulham and Nottingham Forest. Just those are the games that you want to target, right? Those are the captainable games. Those are the games that you want to bring in players for. And you were very strong on that topic. Like Forest is basically a targetable fixture. You just bring in players who are playing Forest essentially, right? As almost as simple as that. Um, and then Everton is kind of deceiving, right? I was talking to you before. Um, they have only considered like 7 goals. I think that's the lowest number of goals considered out of all the teams in the league so far. But that's just deceptive. I think their XGC is like 14 or something. So they are overperforming. Pickford has been superb this season so far. So they are overperforming by big margins. I don't see how that's sustainable. In general, they look in a better shape with Cody and Tarkowski, etc. Right? In shape-wise or player-wise, potential-wise, they look better. I think they're still vulnerable defensively. But yeah, that's pretty much about it. Anything specific that you want to talk about from a defensive standpoint?
No, I think you covered well. Just again, Liverpool, right in the middle that we you can't expect, but again, this is one of the seasons we see that, right, that Liverpool is not having a good season in terms of like defensive wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and their fixture next they're playing against like City and Arsenal, right? So we will see. Still um, probably wait and see for Liverpool. Those who already have Trent definitely hold, but I don't think it's a buy at least for next 2 game weeks until
Yeah,
12 or 13. So yeah.
yeah. Yeah, one thing maybe, um, yeah, I mean, even from a Liverpool attack standpoint, they literally play the 3 best defenses in the league in the next 3 game weeks, like Arsenal, City, and West Ham, coincidentally. I mean, if you have Salah, I mean, it's a tough decision to be honest, right? I mean, you cannot go to a KDB because they blank in 12. You cannot go to a Son because he's out of form. It's a tough choice. So you probably just keep and play a Salah, but it's not necessarily the best set of fixtures in the next few games, right? Starting from 13, they have one of the best fixtures, 13 to 16. I think they have Tottenham in 15, but other than that, their fixtures are very good in that range. But at least in the next three games, I'm not too excited about the Liverpool fixtures. Liverpool Man City is generally a high scoring game, at least in the last few seasons. Generally, they have scored a lot of goals. But yeah, I'm not too excited about owning the Liverpool attackers over the next few at least. But yeah, that's about it. Anything else that we missed from a defensive standpoint?
No, I think you can move on.
Okay. All right, let's talk about the players. Patrick already asked a question. Read the following through game of 12: Zaha, Trossard, Bowen. So maybe we can, once we talk about this, we will try to answer that as well. So what we are seeing here on the x-axis, we have the NPX attack. So basically, potential attacking points that you would expect based on the underlying number of the players from game week one, based on game week 1 to 9 data. And then on the y-axis, we have the cumulative XGC from all the opponents between game week 10 to 12. So, I mean, of course, as a game week 13 wildcarder, this is something useful for me, especially that I wanted to look at. But at the same time, this is probably useful for anyone who are going to use their free transfers over the next few game weeks to target the short-term fixtures. And in some cases, it kind of applies for the long term as well. So one thing that stands out are Aston Villa's fixtures, right? We already spoke about it. They play Forest in 10 and Fulham in 12. 11 is Chelsea, so that's the bad part. But just those two fixtures, and as we just saw in the previous chart, literally the two worst teams from a defensive perspective in the whole league, right? The issue with Aston Villa is they are one of the worst teams from an attacking perspective in the whole league also, right? They're, I think, the 19th from an XG standpoint, average XG standpoint. So not in the best shape, not in the best format of like a couple game weeks ago, we were even talking about Gerrard getting sacked, right? So I don't mind on Watkins if you want to go for like a short-term option, and we'll talk about it a little more because again, since Mitro is injured, Isak is injured, etc. But yeah, that's something to at least talk about. What do you think about the Aston Villa players? I know you were talking about Watkins last game week.
Yeah, so basically, again, it's a short-term thing, right? So whenever we talked last game week, as you know, I was very interested to pick, either Tony or Watkins as a Isak replacement, but I didn't have money, like enough money to get them, right?
Yeah.
And the reason was they were playing Leeds last week, although they couldn't score against 10 men Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
But that fixture was a good fixture for Aston Villa, right? And then they're playing Nottingham Forest, they're playing Fulham, and I think they are also playing. Is it Brentford? I forgot. In 13, I think it's Brentford in
Brentford.
13,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So which is a decent fixture as well,
Yes.
except Chelsea fixture. I think their fixture is good. So again, for short term, right? I think it's a good pick, and I mean we already saw that, right? Against Nottingham Forest, every team scores. Like they just,
Mhm.
like allows lots of,
Yeah. Even Bournemouth
XG.
scored three against Forest, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So and I think, like if Villa scores, then like likes of Watkins, or like even Coutinho, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bailey. So one question just Nehal asked, that what's the thought that if like Bailey to Trossard and Mitrovic to Solanke with a hit. Now, I mean, Trossard is a good move. We don't know
Yeah.
about Mitrovic yet, because if it is a more than one game week thing, then it's a different thing. But it's only if it's only one game week, then
Mm-hmm.
Fulham's fixture is good, right? And Villa is playing against Nottingham Forest in next game week, right? So
Yeah.
I will be hesitant to do that, to be honest, especially with the hit, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But if it would not be a Nottingham Forest fixture, I would think in different ways. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's very difficult to ignore Villa's fixture. Again, very short term, very, very short term, especially those who are wildcarding in 13. They
Mm-hmm.
have the luxury to do that. Those who already like played the wildcard, then they have to kind of see what other pressing issues they have, especially in game week 12, as we mentioned, right? that you have to
Yeah.
make sure in game week 12 you have to have a good coverage. So yeah, I think that's my take on about Aston Villa. Although they didn't look good in terms of XG, accumulated as you mentioned, average XG in the league so far. But
Mhm.
if Nottingham Forest is the fixture and Fulham is the fixture for them, and um, those are the people who are gonna probably turn up. That's my expectation.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about the other extreme on the player data standpoint. So Wilson looks fabulous, right? I mean, he still hasn't got a lot of minutes. He was injured, just came back from injury. I'm pretty sure his minutes will still be somewhat managed. He'll probably start, but then be subbed out at around like 65, 70 minutes. That's what I'm expecting to see from him. But when he's on the field, he has looked very good, very sharp. His numbers are probably a little bit skewed because he scored that goal line header in the last game, right, which was probably going in anyways. But other than that, I think Wilson is still a very, very viable pick, right? Still, especially if Isak is injured, I think Wilson is probably the immediate best option to replace Isak, if anything. What do you think of Wilson in
Oh
general?
yeah, definitely. So if you have enough money, so basically those who wildcarded in game week 8, they took Isak because of the fixture, right, of Newcastle, and also they looked good, right, attacking
Mhm.
wise, and we also saw that even in last game week. Although it was 10 men Fulham, but still, like they had lots of chances, right?
Mhm.
And so Wilson, like we mentioned in game week 1, right? Say he is usually injured, right? Usually,
Right.
but whenever
Mhm.
he plays, he scores, and you just pick him, right? And
Mhm.
Newcastle is the team which looked promising. We saw from the underlying data as well, and their front line looked good. And Saint Maximin is expecting to be back, and if whenever he's back, their front line actually will look way more juicy, right? Now, I think Wilson is the best replacement for Isak, and those who had Isak, like they took just because of the fixture of 12 and 13, and even long term as well, right? So, if you
Mhm.
can afford, I think Wilson is the best, and underlying data also shows that, right? He's in the first quadrant, so I think he is, to me, he's the best replacement for
Yep.
Isak. If you have enough money, I don't have enough money, but if you can afford, I think he's the best replacement.
What is Isak now? He's 7 million,
6.9.
or 6 point down to 6.9. Okay. Yeah, yeah. All right,
And
and
Wilson is
then
7.2, I think. So
yeah,
yeah,
Wilson is
yeah.
7.2. Correct. Yeah. Let's maybe just talk about the other forward options, and then we'll move on to elsewhere.
Mhm.
Since we're talking about Mitro and Isak replacements, so who else do you think could be options? Tony is still is option a viable
Yeah,
option, right? I think.
Tony is a long-term pick, right? I mean, his underlying data was good. He's on penalties. So as
Mhm.
you mentioned before, right? I mean, he didn't do good in last game. It doesn't mean he's an obsolete option. He is always a legit option, right?
Right.
And again, you have to be kind of patient with Tony, right? I mean, he probably kind of blanks 1 or 2 game weeks, but again, he's gonna just
Pop off. Yeah.
smash.
Yep.
So Tony, to me, Wilson. But again, I think Solanke is gonna come again just because, first of all, he's kind of enabler, right?
Hmm.
So as we mentioned before, right, that we are now in that phase of FPL where we are thinking to have 5 mid if possible, right?
Yep.
And there are lots of 8 million mids option. So Solanke actually enables that, right?
Hmm.
And Bournemouth's fixture actually is not bad, to be honest. They are playing against Leicester City. They seem leaky. Leicester City, I mean, was very lucky that they didn't concede last game week, right?
Yeah, against Forest. Yep.
Now, right. So, although Bournemouth doesn't look that they are really interested to attack, but again, it's their home game. You have to also think about that, right? So, this it's
Yeah.
their home game, and if anything, I mean, they do. I think Solanke should be involved, and again, he's on penalty too. So, you
Hmm.
don't have to play him every game week, but again, he will enable other players in the mid. So, I wouldn't mind it actually. I mean, I am actually thinking again, if I could take Wilson or Tony, I could have done that,
Yep.
but I mean, if I can do that, so I have to kind of move down, and Solanka is a good option.
Yeah, Derek is talking about Welbeck. I think Welbeck is a
Oh
very
yeah,
decent option as
very
well.
good option.
I think
Very good
he's
option.
6.5 million, so
Six point
slightly
five
higher in
million.
price.
Yeah.
But as we said, if Trossard is a good option, Welbeck is probably equally a good option. And again, their long-term fixtures don't look that bad. So viable option, definitely a viable option. And he has looked. He just hasn't finished, but his involvement has been there at least, right? So Welbeck is a good
I
option.
actually liked Welbeck.
Yeah, it's a
He's a very very viable option,
very
and
viable option. Yeah.
right.
Other option, I mean, if since you're talking about Solanke, then in that price bracket, I don't mind a Dhaka, especially if you know if you get early team news. I mean that's the key, right? I think Leicester plays Bournemouth. That's the early kickoff in
Yes,
game week 10. So if you do get some news that Dhaka is starting, I don't mind him because whenever he has been on the pitch, even in the last game, he scored a pretty good goal from Madison's cross pass. Uh, but yeah, I mean that's the key, right? X minutes. That's the concern, and if he does poorly, he might get dropped also, right? They have other options in Iheanacho and Vardy, etc. Solanke's positive is that he is nailed, right? He's the
he's nailed.
talisman of the team. He's on pens. He's 100% nail, absolutely nail. So you basically take the chance, right? If you are okay elsewhere in your team, I don't necessarily mind a Dhaka, but as we said, right, there are other issues with our team because of that game week 12 blank. Right, we have to take care of other players, so probably not the best option from that standpoint. But yeah, at least in a short term, I don't necessarily mind that. We spoke about Madison's fixtures, same thing, right? Same applies for Dhaka too. If he does start, if he does get starts, pretty good option. And other than that, I think some people have been talking about Skamaka, right? He scored in the PL last game. He scored again in the Europa Conference
Right.
League this game, this week. So he looks like a good player. Antonio is just completely out of form. So I'll be surprised if his Kamaka doesn't displace him. Um, I'm not sure if I would want to go there given how bad West Ham has looked. Again, their fixtures are very, very decent. They're up here, right? So if you look at Bowen, he's right up here. But and so good fixtures, but I'm just not too sure about Skamaka yet. But could be. I don't necessarily mind if he starts, if he gets starts. I don't necessarily mind him. Uh,
I think he's gonna get. I think
yeah, I'll
because
be very surprised if he
he
doesn't start the
yes,
next game.
because he came from the bench um,
Right.
in the Europe, and then he scored. I mean I think he's gonna start. I think over the
Yeah,
weekend. I
yeah.
liked him by the way as a pick because the fixture actually is good,
Right.
and we'll see. I actually have few other names in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One of them actually Edward, again X minutes issue, but I
Mm-hmm.
like Edward because of the fixture that Palace is having. They have lots of attacker option. That's the problem. But Edward actually scored even last game week as well, and he's 5.3. Solanke is 5.7, and
Right.
he actually even enables more because of the like cheaper than Solanke. But again, X minutes is the issue. Otherwise, I actually like Edward. Sometimes I thought to have a punt because that actually allows me
Yeah.
a lot of other options.
And I
What
mean,
do you
he
think
has
of
started more often than not, right? This
that
season
is
so far,
true,
but that
but
was true for last season also. Like
exactly
I
right,
got
and
him in game week 23, and then he just never played
right,
again ever.
right.
So that's
Matata
the
is there, Olise is there, they have lots of options
they have
actually
all the attackers back.
except Zaha.
Yeah.
I don't see any other nail option there.
Mhm.
What do you think about Bamford?
Not yet. No. I
Because
mean,
I think Sinistera is gonna be
yeah,
basically
Sinister is out for the next three.
next game, next three
Yeah.
or only the next game.
He got a direct red, didn't he? Or I
No,
forgot.
no,
Well,
it was
maybe
two
just the next
yellows.
game
It
then.
was
Yeah.
silly yellow, the next one.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Bamford. I just don't feel comfortable enough to go there
Okay.
yet, given his injury situation. Right, he still isn't getting starts. If he at least got one start, then I would be more confident.
Mhm.
I spoke about him last week, right? If he does get minutes, if he does get starts, I like him. I like him very much. Just given everything else, given everything, all the other situations, I don't think I could quite go there.
Okay.
We can probably talk about the next kind of one price range up. I know for a lot of people that would not work out, but the Richarlisons and the Aubameyangs, right? Aubameyang scored two consecutive goals in PL and in again in UCL today, yesterday, and then Richarlison is also probably a viable
If you
option
can afford,
because
right? If you can afford.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kulu is out, so I'll be very surprised if all of Richarlison, Son, and Kane don't start some of the next games. I don't mind that. Of course, he's 8.5, I think, right? So
Yeah.
that's interesting. So it will be almost for a lot of people, it will be a structural change, right? If you want to hold on to that, maybe
Hmm.
if you want to get say Nunez in for game week 13 or something like that later, if you want to hold that spot with an Aubameyang or Richarlison, I don't necessarily mind that. I think both of them are viable options. Again, if your team structure supports that, right? If
And
you don't
also like
have any capacity issues,
it's a Jesus option as well, right? Because
yeah, you can go back to Jesus if it doesn't work out after game week 12 also.
mhm.
So yeah, I don't necessarily mind that. Again, completely a structured thing. But if structure allows, I think both Aubameyang and Richarlison in the short term are viable options. Aubameyang actually looks pretty good. I think he's pretty nailed also.
Mhm.
Havertz is just completely out of form, right? So I just don't see him getting starts at least in the Premier League. I think Aubameyang will pretty much start all of the games. So he's 9 million, so that's the risk. So you are going for a high price player, but there are very good escape routes, right? You can basically, if you have a nine
Yeah.
million striker, you can basically downgrade him to whatever you want it
Yeah.
to be.
One thing actually, we talked about Chelsea even last game week as well. Chelsea's fixture is good now.
Yeah.
After 12 or from 13, their fixture is not the best, by the way. In
If you
the
do it, you do it now. Yeah.
exactly, you do it now.
Yeah.
So if you want to take the chance, because Chelsea's fixture is best
Mhm.
amongst all the big teams. So if you don't take chances, then you have to take chance now with Sterling or Aubameyang, whoever it is.
Yeah.
But later, it's not gonna be probably possible.
Yep.
Like, so what's your thought? Like, if you rank it, so like Isak or
Metro's replacements.
yeah, I mean, definitely Wilson is number one.
Yeah, I
Both of
think
us.
Wilson definitely top for me. I would still rate Tony as the second option, as we said, long term option,
Mhm.
safe option, talisman of the team on pens, etc. Lots of positives for him, right? So I think still Tony second, and then third, we did not talk about Marshall also, right? I mean, could
Yeah,
be an
Tony
option.
Marshall. Yeah,
Fixtures don't look that good, but could be.
he
Maybe
scored.
not right
Yeah,
now.
he scored today again.
Yeah, he scored today again from the bench. But I think who else did we talk about? Wilson, Tony,
Solanke,
mm,
Watkins,
maybe Watkins. I don't
or
mind Watkins just
no,
because
actually,
of
we
his short-term
we also have
fixtures.
Welbeck, so that's another good option.
Welbeck, yeah, yeah, one of Welbeck and Watkins. I don't mind either. But yeah, I definitely like Wilson the most, then Tony, then
Hmm.
Welbeck or Watkins. Watkins for short term. Well, Welbeck for short term
Short term
also.
also, right?
But yeah, one of them I don't mind. What is your ranking for the forwards?
I I mean
You have to
Wilson,
make that decision also, right? For some
right?
this game.
Yeah, I mean I can't afford Wilson. That's, I mean, again, as I said, if Manu would not be the issue, then I would go for Wilson, and
Hmm.
I would go for Watkins as well. I was really keen to take Watkins last week,
Yeah.
because that's the upside I see
Hmm.
in next 2 to 3 game weeks. So
Hmm.
I would go for him, but it's just I don't have any money, and I actually even lost both Isak and Mitros price today again.
Yeah.
Especially Mitros. So, but anyways, it is what it is. But Wilson for me, Tony, and I would probably rate Watkins over
Welbeck.
Welbeck, at least for short term. So.
Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Let's talk about the mids. Okay.
Mhm.
And we'll try to answer Patrick's question also. So I mean, let's talk about maybe kind of the mids in more 8 to 7 million issues range, right? So at least for me, that's how I'm looking at it. If the 12 game week 12 fixture was not postponed, I think Foden would be the outstanding 8 million midfielder, like by far. I mean, of course, there is KDB, but I think just that value that he adds at 8 million is just too much to ignore, and he's just too good, right? So I think Foden would be the first choice. Diaz we spoke about before also, right? I mean, he did score goals, but he just doesn't attract me as an out and out FPL option. I would like more of a Nunez or a Jota
Jota,
over
exactly.
a Diaz any day from a Liverpool attack.
Mhm.
Um, Elsewhere, Madison, right? I think Foden, after Foden, it would probably, given the current form, again, underlying stats does not support that at all. It's still poor. Madison is just in supreme form, right? Form is a thing too. I mean, we agree or not agree. Form is a thing, right? I mean, they are good players. Madison is a very good player, right? We saw that last season too. I was looking at one stat. I think he's like the player to have scored most points in the last 27 game weeks in FPL or something like that,
Mhm.
even more than Salah, Kane, Son, etc., etc. So he's very good, right? So I think Foden, Madison, and then Zaha is in the contention, right? Over probably even some of the other 8 million mids. Um, and then Bowen, he's kind of starting to raise his hand again, right? Last game, especially, was very, very good. As we said, that fixtures bring you back to form. He was out of form, he was not looking that good. Last game, he looked good, and his next few are pretty good as well. 12 is Liverpool, I think, right? But the next two are still good fixtures.
Mhm.
Uh, so that would be kind of my ranking, right? So I think Foden, Madison, then Zaha, then Bowen, and probably Trossard in somewhere in between. I think between Zaha and Bowen, I would say. Again, Bowen, I am ranking below because of how West Ham looks like as a team. I don't have any issue with Bowen as a player. He's a fantastic player, but just West Ham still doesn't attract me as a team yet. Quite yet, they're not quite convincing yet, right? If they do good, probably everything will go through Bowen. That's the good thing about it. But I'm not too convinced about West Ham as a team quite yet. But yeah, I would put Trossard in between Zaha and Bowen. I think that kind of covers Patrick's question. He did put Salah in the equation as well. It's hard to put Salah in there, but as we said before, also, right? Liverpool literally faces the three best defenses in the league, and if it was any other season, no one would even worry about that. No one would even care about that. But given how Liverpool are playing, I mean, from an attack perspective, they're still okay. uh, Salah just looks a little out of shape, right? I mean, the last game was better. He was getting into the box a whole lot. He was getting a lot more chances. Just the finishing touch is not quite there yet, right? So I'm not too excited for Salah, at least for the next few. I would not even mind not having Salah in game week 13, game week 12, right? Last game week when we were talking about it, we were talking about it like what's my plan to get Salah in game week 12, for example, because I don't have, say, like a KDB that I can go directly from there, right? So yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that, but I would probably put Salah even below all those midfielders. What's your thought about the midfielders?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, right? So um, I agree with all the names, and Bowen basically it's not a buy, right? So whenever you rank, basically you ask that do you want to buy them like from now or in the future, like in
Yeah.
next few game weeks. I don't think I'm gonna buy Bowen, but if you have Bowen, then you hold him, right?
Mhm.
While as you mentioned, right, that Foden is a buy maybe because he got rest in the UCL, right? He had a hat trick. He's playing Southampton, who looked very like shambolic. Their coaches, I mean, their manager might be fired. Who knows? So it's like very good matchup for Foden, right?
I mean,
The-
if it was not for the Game of 12 blank, I'll be all over it, right?
yeah,
I'll buy Foden right
exactly,
now,
right?
right at
Yeah.
this moment. Yeah.
So, but again, we were just talking about the game week 10, right? And then Zaha is a buy too. I mean, like very good run of fixture, right? And he's the talisman. And also the same thing for Madison. So that's why Bowen actually kind of goes behind them.
Mhm.
So he's not a buy, but he's a hold, and that's the problem here. At least like people like me who is facing because he was my exit route. Sorry, he was my entry route for Zaha. I
Mhm.
really didn't expect, to be honest, like Bowen is gonna have a smash
Yeah.
in last game week. I was like I kind of think, okay, this game week I'm gonna take Bowen to Zaha, but now Bowen did well and their fixture looks good
Yeah.
in next few game weeks.
Yeah.
Now
It's hard to move him out.
yeah,
Yeah.
so now I don't have any option to get Zaha, to be honest, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean again my ranking is gonna be like that. Bowen is gonna be behind Salah. As I told you before, whenever we started this video, right? I might go even without Salah, even game week 13 or 12 as well, because that probably would suit my structure. That's something I can think of,
Mhm.
because my team's value is not good, and if Salah, I mean, if I don't captain Salah, except game week 13, I don't need Salah to be honest.
True.
Because in 13, yes, Nottingham Forest, that's the only gamble I have to take. And I can take gamble with either Trent or like someone else like Nunes or
Hmm.
Diaz, I don't know, someone else, right? That's the only gamble I have to take, and that's actually very big gamble because Nottingham Forest, who knows, again
Yeah.
Salah might be like
And
having hat trick.
completely. Yeah.
But that's the only game I'm going to captain him. Otherwise, I don't need him to be honest. So
True. True.
it's okay to disregard him if you think that someone else can like match him, or like pair of player can match him, right? Because it's 13, and if you can make like 7+6, like Trossard, and because in 13, even in 12 you can bring Trossard and you can captain him easily,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
I mean, thing is that if someone already got him in a wild card, you just stick with it. Unfortunately, you
Yeah,
have to, as we said, like you cannot move from him to a KDB now, given his blank. Um, Son is not informed, etc. You just either
right.
downgrade him completely, like to like 8 million or something. Even that, I would probably not suggest. Right? If you already took the bet, you took the decision based of his old performance and overall stat data, etc., etc. Right? You just stick with him, I would say, right, over the
Yeah,
next couple of games. And as I said, the Liverpool Man City game is a high scoring game generally. And if he gets a penalty, that's already like a 8 pointer, right? So you have to think about those things. So I don't think it's a transfer out, but I don't think he's a buy for
yeah,
right now. Not even even in game week 12, I would not mind going without him. There are
yeah.
other short term fixtures in that game you may want to target, even with the cheaper players. Um, what did we miss? Did we miss anything specific from a player's
PSB was
standpoint?
asking about Trent, what to do with Trent. You hold. I think
Yeah,
I mean, I think he PSB already wildcarded, and
yeah,
Salah and
it's a
Trent actually
tough
you just
one.
hold, because the good thing is, I mean, you can assess, in until game week 12, what's the, I
Yeah,
mean, in game week 13, you need them anyways, Salah and Trent,
yeah.
so you just
I mean,
stick
same
to them.
logic, right? If you got
Exactly.
Trent or get Salah, you already knew the what the fixtures are. You
Right.
already knew that they're going to play Arsenal, they're going to play City, etc. If you think you want to keep them or you bought them for that reason, just
I think
hold,
you
right?
hold them.
Probably. I mean,
Game week 12, right? Game week 12
yeah,
again. You keep in mind. So you have to field 11 or
yeah.
12 players. So
And I mean, who do you go to, right? You probably already
no
have
options.
Cancelo, you probably already have James, etc. Like, where do you go? You basically either downgrade to a dirt cheap defender like a 4.55 million, or yeah, I mean, yeah, probably just hold, just hope for the upside, essentially, right? If you already have got him, he is differential right now, right? I think he is less than 30% owned. Rarely happens, right? So if you have him, I would say hold. Tough decision, very tough decision, given how Liverpool has looked defensively, but I would say hold at least for the time being. I think we covered pretty much everything. Anything that you want to touch on Man United, especially since as a
No,
Man
I
U
think, I
fan?
mean, we mentioned before as well, right? That Man United's fixture run was not really best. We didn't have any, like, time slot. You know what? You pick up Man United players this time for at least 2 to 3 game
Mhm,
weeks. We
mhm.
we never had it, right? And whenever we were looking good last week, I mean, basically City kind of, completely. I mean, City is different right now. I mean, we might again start looking good. Well, CR7 played 90 minutes today. He didn't score right
Yeah.
now. Like Martial came from the bench. Like Rashford came from the bench. So again, we
Mhm.
don't know the situation yet, to be honest, right? I mean, I think Rashford and Martial might start,
Yeah. I
but
think
we
Marshall
don't
has
know.
to start in number 9, right? If he's fit,
Yes,
I think given what we have seen so far, he has to start
right.
number
Yeah,
9.
I mean, if he starts and if he plays, really, it would be a very good option for us. But again, their fixture is not really the best, right? They didn't really have any. I mean, they have Everton, and I think they are again playing Newcastle. So it's not
Mhm.
really a good run of fixture. So I
No, yeah.
think there are other better options there.
Yeah, wait and see, basically, see
Exactly.
the turnout. I know a lot of people have been asking about Chelsea also, like what the best Chelsea option given the formation change, etc., etc. Chelsea did play five at the back in UCL this game week. James was playing right wing back, Chilwell was playing left wing back, Sterling was very far front, Aubameyang looked very good, as I said before also. So as I said, like I don't mind Aubameyang. He's not on this chart because he has not played many games yet. Sterling is in his own right still a very good option. 10 million is a weird price range. But again, I don't mind say if someone wants to downgrade from a Salah to Sterling, like it sounds weird. In general, it would have sounded very weird. But as you said, also like the next few fixtures are good for Chelsea, right? The next 3-4 fixtures. So you target that, right? I don't mind getting a Sterling and Aubameyang. If you ever want to get a Chelsea attacker, it's probably the time. And I think James is out and out the best FPL option by whatever angle you see it from a Chelsea perspective. Mount is not just quite there yet, right? He has been suffering for a long time. He did look better in the last game, should have scored. I think he did score from an
It was an
offside
offside.
position
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Starting to look better. He's a good player, right? I mean, so in the long term, he would come better, but there are just better players in that price range. As we already said, lots of players raising their hands in the 8 million, 7 million price range. So not one for me to go there. All right, I think we covered it well. Let's just one thing before we move on. So game week 12, right? So again, as we said, Man City and Arsenal. A lot of us. I have five Man City and Arsenal players, right? Three Arsenal and two Man City. You have four. A lot of people may still even have six, right? Who knows? Probably not many, but still may. But most of us have 4 to 6 City and Arsenal players, right? So in general, what is your plan? Like, who are you looking to bench in game week 12 out of all these players? Who are
That's
you
the
looking to get out?
yeah, that's the question or discussion I actually wanted to bring here before you ask the question, that Martinelli, because that's the one discussion point here,
Yep.
right? That what do we do with Martinelli? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you sell him? And if you sell him, I think this is the week you sell him, because
Mm-hmm.
next week he's playing against Leeds, right? Now, again, if you sell him, then basically you're getting a player who's gonna play in 12, right? But you have to again bring back Martinelli probably in 14, because that's when they're playing against Nottingham Forest, because we are again always attacking Nottingham Forest fixture, right? So do you
Yeah.
think, or basically for me, what I was thinking is basically I have four, so I was gonna, like, one of my plan was to like swap from KDB to Salah,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I will have three, and I will bench all of these three. But the players that I'm playing, I'm not really happy with them either. Okay, so my another option is basically removing Martinelli and then again bringing back, or you can, another option probably cancel it to Trent. That's another, like, kind of similar price point, right?
Yeah.
That also gives you some touch point as well if you want to bring Martinelli, sorry, Trent in game week 12, especially those who are already wildcarded, right? Who didn't have Trent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's couple of the thoughts. But I think, like at least um, those who have KDB, they are definitely selling KDB, I think, in game week 12. I think, nobody's gonna hold. It's a lot of money, right? You don't
It's
want
hard
to.
to keep both
ex-
Haaland and KDB. Yeah.
Exactly, right. So you are selling KDB. Now with that money, either you get Salah, or you split the money with being Trossard, or some, like, Luis Diaz, or even Trent in that game week, or it could be Cancelo, or you just remove Martinelli now. So that's, I'm actually thinking, like, probably I mean, again, it's very difficult. I don't, it depends on the, like, metro situation for
Yeah.
me tomorrow, how it's gonna be looking like. But I think probably Martinelli needs to go, at least in my team.
Yeah. I don't mind moving Martinelli for two reasons. One is I was talking to the other APL USA guys today also, right? So like if I move from a Martinelli to Zaha, I still get the Leeds fixture this week,
Right. And
and
Leicester
then I
City
get the
fixture.
Leicester, and then there's Wolves in 12, I
Right, in
think,
13,
which is
yeah,
still a
12,
good fixture,
12,
a
yeah.
decent fixture for
And it's a
Zaha.
home game. Yeah.
So it's basically I'm rolling the dice thrice versus Martinelli's one versus Leeds, and also the fact that I still have Jesus, at least for my team. So I have the coverage in that Leeds game, so I don't mind. I mean, of course, it's the value that I lose 0.3. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest. I'll gain that right back if people start selling Martinelli. If he doesn't do too good, people will sell, right? There will be mass sell in game week 12,
Mhm.
11 time frame. So. Uh, I think I'll end up losing maybe 0.2 million. I'm okay with that, right? So if I want to buy him back in game week 13, I'm okay to lose that 0.2 value. I'm not too worried about losing that value, right? What I'm more worried about is getting points in the next few game weeks. I don't really mind. I think I'm when we look at my team, I'll talk about it a little more. But I think I would sell Martinelli for three players: Zaha, Trossard, and Madison. I think these are the only three players that I would sell Martinelli for.
Right.
Uh, or if you are trying to change your structure, which is unlikely given the injury situation of the other forwards.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are the only three players that I would think of
Yeah.
selling Martinelli for. If you already have them, no reason to sell. I'd say,
Yeah.
for example, I wouldn't sell Martinelli for a Bowen.
Right. So yeah, I think Zaha and Madison, as you mentioned, and Trossard maybe in game week 12. For Martinelli, the problem is they played really good against Spurs. And again, as you mentioned, the matchup, the vulnerability that Liverpool has, and that's a very good matchup for Martinelli again, right?
Yeah,
So he might score, against Liverpool, right? Because Liverpool is not really good shape in terms of defense. That's
yeah,
the problem. And if you keep this week, next week they're playing against Leeds. So again, you again keep him. So I think, I don't know, it's kind of a dilemma, really.
yeah. His
It's a
ownership
dilemma.
is a little scary. Also, I think it's still
Yeah.
pretty highly owned. So that's the scary
He
part.
looked
But
really good too. I mean,
yeah, he looks
he
good. One worry I have with Martinelli is he has been playing like literally every game, starting every game. Even in the conference league, he started, right? So I'm a little worried that at some point he might get benched. Maybe not like right
did
away.
he play today?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, he
oh,
started.
okay. Oh,
He
okay.
started the game. Yeah. So I'm a little worried that he might get a rest here and there. So I'm again like Vieira is back. Odegaard would be back, so Arsenal will pretty much will have their full squad, and I'm pretty sure Arteta will find a situation where he can rest Martinelli
Right.
potentially, right? Most of the
But I
other big
think
players did get rest today.
I think he was taken off at 58 minutes.
Yeah, around
Derek
60th
was
minute.
saying it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I still, I mean, that's not the main reason. I don't mind it because I can
mhm.
gain the points elsewhere.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
what basically I'm
Yeah.
targeting.
Again, game week 12 is a very big, thing here
Right.
to play role.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
I think we
Let's
have
move on.
spoken about
Yeah.
this
For a long
enough.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was a good discussion. I think it was
Right.
needed also. Game week 10 fixtures. Again, we already have kind of touched this. So a lot of good fixtures, especially the Man City Southampton, very targetable fixture. Chelsea Wolves also is a good fixture. Wolves, basically are coachless right now, managerless right now. So I think this should be a good game for Chelsea. Uh, Leicester Bournemouth could be interesting, especially for anyone that owns Madison. Uh, Spurs Brighton could also be interesting. I'll be very interested to see how Spurs approaches this game. I think they will still be kind of playing counter-attacking, especially since Brighton is looks even more kind of on the front
Front
foot
foot team. Right.
with the new coach. So I think Spurs will kind of be playing counter-attacking football in this game. What else is target? Well, West Ham, Fulham. Fulham is, as we said before, one of the punching bags, right? I think the 19th team from a XGC standpoint. So they are some team to target. Liverpool Arsenal, I really don't know how that game is going to play out. Right? So that will be the most interesting game of the weekend. Arsenal in supreme form. Liverpool starting to look better in kind of in a new formation also, right? We didn't talk about Liverpool a whole lot, especially about the formation. They started all four,
Hmm.
like Salah, Nunez, Jota, and Diaz in the UCL game. And what I read is that a lot of fans have been also kind of pushing for that for some time, especially given Fabinho is not doing that great, so he doesn't add any value to that midfield, anyways. So they have Thiago back, and they basically played a kind of a double pivot, and then uh, three either Jota in a number 10 role, or if maybe Firmino comes in, he plays that number 10 role, and Nunez gets basically the number 9, right? Or maybe switch again between Jota, Firmino, etc., etc. So they have a few combinations that they can work out, right? If they do play that formation, that's a possibility that might become their go-to formation in the next few game weeks. But yeah, that will be interesting to see how Liverpool approaches the game, how Arsenal approaches the game. I think, given the form that Arsenal has, I think they will start exactly the same way that is the Tottenham game, right? They will be in front foot. They will try to attack. So it could really go either way, but I really don't have any clue how this game is going to
This is a very
go.
crucial game, by the way, for FPL and for PL.
Yeah,
Very, very crucial game.
yep. And then the last game, right, the Monday game, Aston Villa Nottingham Forest. It's a targetable fixture because it's Nottingham Forest, but it's also Aston Villa, who has been pretty poor from an attacking perspective. We already spoke about it. So let's just move on to the captaincy. It should be a very short discussion, the shortest discussion
Yeah.
in the history of our captaincy discussions. I don't think,
Just give the armband to
yeah,
the player.
anyone in the right mind is going to captain anyone else outside Haaland. Uh, Yeah, I mean, I
Nothing
don't
to
think we
talk
even need
really.
to talk about really. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't. Yeah, we don't really need to talk about it at all. Just Captain Haaland. No, no worries. At least this game week, don't worry about it. I think game week 11 will have some discussion. There
Yes.
will be some
Kane.
discussion to have
Kane's
when
son. Yeah.
City and Pool plays each other, and then Kane plays Everton, etc. Right. So game week 11, there it will be a point of discussion. Game week 10, nothing to discuss really. All right, let's just quickly move on to our teams. I'll read out my team for the viewers first. So I have Pope, Trippier, James Cancelo, uh, Andreas, Bowen, Madison, Martinelli, Jesus, Haaland, and Kane. So I have a few dilemma about my transfer outs or what transfer I want to make this week. I could just play this, which is not the worst thing in the world, especially if Mitro doesn't play. Andreas could even be on penalties, and who knows if they get a penalty and he takes it, it's all golden. That could be one option, and he's already on other set pieces, etc. Also, so I don't mind playing him. I'm not necessarily expecting anything from him, but I don't mind it. I'm benching Saliba because again I do expect Liverpool to score. However bad they are, I would be surprised if Liverpool doesn't score a goal right in the game. Um, so there is that. So some of my transfer thoughts is, of course, number one is just roll with this. Elsewhere my team is okay. I have just issue with that 11th player, right? My other 10 players are perfectly okay for this game. uh, I do have two Arsenal attackers against Liverpool, and that's what I was talking about. So my second potential option is move out Martinelli to Zaha. I have 1.4 million in the bank. So I have more than enough money to do that move, do Martinelli to Zaha. Third would be to move out Jesus to a striker, which I'm not too excited about, because who do I go to really, right? Like we spoke
Mhm.
about Wilson. But yeah, I'm not too excited about that, right? I mean, of course, if you have an injury issue with the Metro, etc., Isak, you go there. I don't quite fancy going from Jesus to Wilson. I don't see much gain, that's what we have to look for. Like, what's my gain from moving this player to the other? And then number four would be moving Saliba to a better defender. Could be a Chelsea defender, could be anyone else, could be a Crystal Palace defender. I briefly even thought about Cash because of the Aston Villa matchup in game week 10 and 12. Um, but yeah, that's the last one kind of sounds a little too defensive for me, given that I wildcard in game week 13. So I want to attack the game in the next few game weeks in 10, 11, 12. I want to attack the game, right? So moving Saliba out doesn't fancy me either. So the only move basically, I would say I'm thinking between the two right now, either rolling and then assess in game week 11 with the two free transfers, or do the Martinelli to Zaha move, right? So that's basically where my head is. So I'll still ponder it over tomorrow. I don't think there is going to be any significant price change. Maybe I don't know how close Zaha is to a price rise, but I'll make the decision tomorrow, maybe before the price rise, anyways. Um, I have enough money, so I don't worry. I don't necessarily have to worry about that. That's most likely going to be my move because, again, as I said, I do like Zaha's matchup against the next three fixtures in the next three opponents. But yeah, any suggestions, any thoughts?
Can you do Andreas to Trossard?
No, no, never mind there. 4.5 plus 1.4 would bring me to 5.9. Trossard is 6.7 already, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
6.7.
Gross is 5.9, but yeah, I don't fancy gross.
No. Yeah, I would not sell Saliba. I mean, as you said, right? I mean, you have wildcard in your hands, so you need to attack. So, yeah, I think um, either you roll,
Hmm.
and only possible option again, as you said, Martinelli to Zaha. That's the only one transfer I can think of. Otherwise,
Yeah.
or I don't know if you if you want to go from Jesus to Watkins, but I don't think you want it. So, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, as I said, it's not something that did not cross my mind. It absolutely did cross my mind. I like their fixture in 10 and 12. Just I don't know how much I trust Villa and Watkins,
hmm,
especially Watkins. I don't trust him at all.
okay.
Um, but yeah, it has crossed my mind, and as I said, I'll still think over it tomorrow. See
Yeah, I
what I
think
want to.
yeah, I think then either you roll. I think it's a good. I don't know. I'm probably underestimating Liverpool, but I think Arsenal is gonna win here. Um,
Yeah, possible, very possible. Given the
so
form, they
yeah,
should
and
win. To be
it's a
honest.
home game. I don't know.
Mhm.
I feel like even they might get clean sheet. That's my that's my hunch. So I might be wrong, definitely. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what I have to assess also is the EO situation because I don't think it's. I mean, of course, Zaha is the Twitter darling this week, right? But I don't think his ownership is going to be like through the roof or anything yet, right?
yeah,
So if I don't have him, I don't lose much, right? But if I do have him and he does go off, I gain. So that's the good thing. But if I don't have him, I don't really think I will lose much. But
right.
if Martinelli pops off or goes off, that will be a loss, right? And if Zaha
Hmm.
fails, of course. So,
Yeah,
uh, yeah, I'll have to ponder it over tomorrow. But yeah, that's where I am. Let's talk about your game, your team.
yeah. All flags here. So I have Pope in the goal. Defense line, I think is the same like yours. Trippier, James, and Cancelo. I have Bowen, Madison, Martinelli, and KDB. Um, and I have Isak and Mitro. Both of them are flag, and Isak is very red flag.
Hmm.
And I have Haaland as the captain. My bench is pretty poor. So I have two free transfer. I didn't do any transfer last week, which was good. I think because none. I mean, I was thinking to go to Solanke or whatever it is. I mean, in any case, nobody returned.
Good that you
So
didn't go there. Yeah.
exactly. Now this week, I didn't, as I said, I don't have any money in the bank, and I also lost some, fund here from Metwitch and Isak. I think I mean, it's not a good move, not an exciting move, but I think I will go from Isak to Solanke.
Hmm.
And that will actually allow me to go from Martinelli to Zaha.
Okay.
Okay. I was fancying Edward. That's because if I go Edward instead of Solanke,
Hmm.
then again I can go from Martinelli to Zaha, and then from KDB to Salah, it's a one move for me. But if I go with Solanke, then it's not a one move because then I need some money to get. I think I'm point 0.1 or point 0.2 million short because I lost some
You
money.
cannot do Isak to Welbeck and Martinelli to Zaha. Can you? I
No,
think
no, I don't think I can. I mean, it's point 0.4 only. Isaac to Martinelli. Sorry,
Zaha
Isaac to Zaha is
Welbeck
7.3 now, I think, right?
is he?
Or 7 point.
I think it's still
Uh,
7.2, I believe.
but it's Martinelli is 6.3 for me, like selling price.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh sorry, I was thinking 6.8.
Right. So yeah, Isaac to
Yeah,
Welbeck
you have
is
to downgrade to
6.2.
like a sub 6 million attacker.
Right. So either Solanke or Edward is the option. Edward is the best option for me, to be honest. Like if I don't want to any heavy have any heat and good structure wise, but again, Edward has some experience issue.
Hmm.
But I think what I'm gonna do, I'm thinking I'm gonna go with Solanke, uh, expecting Mitro is fit. But if it's Mitro is not fit, then I'll be in like I mean, I think he's gonna if he misses only one game, it's okay. I think I'm gonna play Andreas, okay, or Nick Williams, whoever it is. But if he's like not fit for more than one or like more than one game weeks,
Mhm.
then I will think about bringing probably Wilson, likes of Wilson, or
You
even
move
Watkins
both
as
Isak
well.
and Mitro out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so then I need, because then I have to get them out, both of them, you know.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say, since you have already played the wild card, if you think that for your structure, if you need to take a -4, do it, because you have to still structure your team for the next 7 weeks, right?
Hmm.
Unlike me, so you can still take that hit and still can gain that back. So in case you think that both Mitro, or see that both Mitro and Isaka are out, if you need to restructure your team, I don't mind taking a -4 for your team. It's an unusual situation, right? Both of your forwards are
Hmm.
injured, so I would not mind taking a -4 and restructure your team, or get back in.
The thing is, like,
don't
I
don't
mean,
yeah, don't get in players that you don't want, right? Because if you're just trying to make those moves and say get like Solanke and Wilson, I don't think you want Solanke, right?
hmm,
He's just an enabler, right? So
right,
if you, I would better rather take a hit and restructure my team so that you actually have the players that you want.
yeah.
If that
I
makes
want
sense.
Zaha, but again, there is no spot here. I mean, I don't know. Only spot is Martinelli spot.
Yeah,
If I downgrade
seems like
Isak
it is,
to
yeah.
Solanke, or Edward, so
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
If yeah,
Mitro, actually, kind of Mitro injury is kind of like, making me
what
nervous
what
now.
is your what is your potential move for game week 11? If you say, for example, Mitro is okay, you do the Zaha and Solanke moves, what
Oh,
would be?
then it's gonna be roll for game week 11. If I do Zaha and Solanke now, then
Mhm.
it's gonna be roll in game week 11, and game week 12. I will do well. Yeah, then
And
I
you'll be
have,
playing Solanke also, right? Then in 10 and in 11
yeah,
and in 12.
yes, I have to play Solanke, and Solanke's fixture is actually not bad. I mean, his picture actually is good. I mean,
They're
I know
pretty shitty
it's
team.
yeah, they don't look good, but again, their fixtures are really not really bad.
Yeah.
So I have to play him. Um, but yeah, I think in game week 12, one of my planned move was from De Bruyne to Salah. But if I go with Solanke and Zaha, as I said, I cannot go with one move. So in that case, what I'm gonna do in 12, I'm gonna bring Trent. Okay,
Mhm.
because my plan was to bring Trent in 13 if I directly do KDB to Salah in game week 12. But if I can't do that, then I'm gonna bring Trent in game week 12, and I think I'm gonna bring another Liverpool like Luis Diaz or like Nunes or Jota. I will see at that moment, and
Yeah.
I think I will go without Salah
Okay.
in that
Yeah.
way.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
But
Okay.
yeah, I think it's tomorrow. I will see how the pressure goes. Team
Mhm.
doesn't look good, but it is what it is. I
I
already
mean,
had gain last week, so
as long as Metro is okay, will be okay.
yeah.
That's the critical
Yes.
thing, information that you need to know. But yeah. All right. Yeah. I think that's about it. We can roll here. ZD unfortunately could not be with us today.
Hmm.
We'll see. But yeah, that's about it. Thanks everyone for being here with us. Did we miss anything, Wrangler? We
No,
hopefully covered everything.
I think so. For at least this game week, and looking forward next couple of game weeks, we covered pretty well. So
All right. Okay. So sounds good. So next few gamings are of course going to be busy. 11, 12, 13 are pretty quick turnaround. So we'll get back next week hopefully before game week 11. Until then, thank you everyone. Whoever was here, Derek, PSB, Paz, Patrick,
Nihal.
Nihal, everyone who was here and still is
Hmm.
here. Still already pretty late here, of course. So thanks for being here with us. All right. Thank you everyone. Have a good game week. Best of luck. Thank you, Wrangler. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.